Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where experts in the field inform, educate and inspire our community to be healthier, more balanced and live the lifestyle they love. Our first guest today, Melissa Hiemann, is a trauma therapist and author. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me on.
So, Melissa, what is trauma and how does it relate to our relationships with others?
Sure, so trauma is actually a response that we have to something that we feel very scared of. So it can be when we're growing up or even when we're older, where we feel a strong stress response. So we feel very strong emotions, like our survival is being threatened. And these emotions in our body get trapped in our body. So it's not just trauma as in what most people think, as in they've seen a car accident, been in a car accident, or they've been to war and there's trauma in that sense. That there is those traumas, but there's also smaller traumas that greatly impact us as well. Like if we stood in front of the class and we were little and we got laughed at, and then that trauma response could be, I don't like doing public speaking anymore. And it can be micro traumas as well with our parents when they yell at us, or we've been left to cry it out as a baby. That can be a very large trauma for someone because there's no safety, there's no one there to help them with that survival response, and it gets stuck in their body. And how it can affect us in our relationships is if we do have that trauma, say with our primary caregivers growing up, where they yelled at us and were abusive towards us in any way, or they neglected us, what we do is we think on a subconscious level that that is a blueprint for how love is and how relationships should be. And so we unconsciously seek out people that were often like our parents. Unfortunately, if the parent wasn't very nice, we'll seek out a partner that is similar to them, because our body feels that that is normal. And so some people are like, why do I keep getting into bad relationships? Or why does this keep happening to me? Why do I find myself isolating myself and having a lot of conflict with anyone? And if we think back to our childhood and what we saw growing up, it can really give us some indication as to why these patterns are occurring in our lives in regards to relationships. With trauma usually happens in relationships. So we say trauma can be relational because it's happened with either a caregiver or an authority or someone else. And so we carry that trauma in our bodies, and we often carry it into relationships that we have as we become older, as we find a partner, but then even relationships with our kids, our co-workers, the people in the line with us at the shopping centre in the queue. We're all relating, and so certain things can get triggered that we don't even consciously know why, but that person's made us very angry, or we had a very strong emotional response. So we might say something or behave in a way that is maybe an overreaction to the actual circumstance, and we can't come in with it with a neutral mind, and that's usually because a trauma has been triggered from maybe a long time ago. And if people became more aware of that, they would be able to maybe seek help and find someone to help them work through it, so they can be a more peaceful person, so their relationships can be more peaceful, so they know how to work through conflict in a non-violent way. So yeah, it's really important that we're aware of trauma and how it can impact our relationships.
Could you explain the link between trauma and domestic violence?
Yeah, so that's a really important discussion, and I think it's a problem that is really being exacerbated at the moment. So what normally happens is with trauma is that we reenact our trauma. Okay, so I'll just give you an example for domestic violence because I have my own personal history of that. My mother watched her parents be in a domestic violence situation. So her father would drink alcohol, and he would get very triggered and angry and violent. And so my mother, as a toddler, felt she had to defend her mother and be strong. And then later, when my mum was in her 20s and she met my father, who was a lovely, peaceful man, she almost sabotaged that relationship because it didn't feel normal to her nervous system. That trauma had created a blueprint of no relationship should be violent, even though she didn't consciously want that. So she left my father and got with another man, and he was actually very similar to her father. He would actually do domestic violence in the house, and I witnessed that. And my little brother and sister were very young, and at 16 I had to help her leave that situation. But even though with all of that, when I became a young adult and got into a relationship, I was attracted to people that were controlling and abusive, and I ended up in a domestic violence situation myself. For some reason, my body was just drawn to that. So it's not in every circumstance, but in a lot, we're just recreating what we saw in childhood. I guess you could say I was the victim, but also my low self-esteem, my insecurity, and my allowance allowed me to stay in that relationship for a little while. And then when I started doing the healing work with a therapist, then I realized that, and I realized I could break this generational pattern and cycle.
What advice would you have for our viewers that are feeling like they're experiencing trauma in their relationships at the moment?
I would say that everyone is probably, if you're in a relationship with anyone, you're probably going to have experiences with trauma. And the way that you can indicate and know that you are is if you're having quite strong emotional responses. If you find yourself in a fear state, or in a very angry or controlling state where you want to change the other person's behaviour to make yourself feel better. Or we can replay what we saw in childhood and maybe want to start fights, or we saw our mother be very quiet, so we go very quiet and we don't speak our truth. So just being aware, just having a think about how did that look like for me growing up, and am I overly reacting or overly shutting down in my relationship with this person? If you feel like you're having some of these symptoms or these relational trauma issues, then definitely seek a professional, a therapist, to work through it if you believe there's something there.
That's such valuable and important information, Melissa. If you'd like to know more about Melissa and how trauma affects our relationships with other people, please go to her webpage on our website, wellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we have another interesting guest with another interesting topic. Stay tuned. After the break, Naturopath lecturer and author Michèle Wolff will be talking about, are bloating and irritable bowel syndrome curable? Welcome back. Our next guest, Michèle Wolff, is a naturopath lecturer and author, and the topic we'll be discussing is, are irritable bowel symptoms curable? Welcome, Michèle.
Hi, Megan.
So, what is the cause of irritable bowel symptoms?
It can be many causes, and I'll also just describe the symptoms because they can be very varied. So, irritable bowel is a broad term that can cover alternating constipation and diarrhea, bloating, excessive wind, and pain and cramping in the gut. You know, some people may be diagnosed with irritable bowel and tend more to constipation, others may have diarrhea, so there can be several different symptoms involved. Yes, it's definitely curable once the cause has been found. So there's lots of different causes to irritable bowel. So it can be, for example, a type of pathology, which could be an overgrowth of bacteria, abnormal bacteria, like streptococcus or enterococcus. It could be an overgrowth of a parasite. It could be overgrowth of a fungus. It could be an intolerance or an allergy to a particular food. It can be simply stress that causes it, or a lack of a nutrient that is used up due to stress, like magnesium, which is a relaxant to the gut. And it could be due to a lifestyle where there's, for example, a truck driver who sits for hours, or somebody that has a lot of shift work and they're changing hours. That can cause problems with the gut and a lot of discomfort and bloating. And it can be something more serious that needs to be investigated. You know, like people can have bloating when they've got ovarian cancer. That's an extreme example, but these things are not to be overlooked. So I would normally ask a lot of questions to define what I think that the cause is. And there can also be a problem with the upper digestion. So if somebody's not producing enough digestive enzymes or bile from their gallbladder or hydrochloric acid, or they've got small intestine bacterial overgrowth, which is higher up, then that can lead to irritable bowel symptoms as well. So it's quite varied, but they can all be cured if they have the right medicine.
So irritable bowel is curable?
Yes, it's definitely curable. So once we found out what the cause is, so you know, if you're intolerant to wheat, it may be taking the wheat out, allowing the bowel to heal, giving specific herbs and remedies, and then there may be a time that you can bring wheat back in, as long as there's not something more serious like celiac disease, which can cause irritable bowel as well. That can be masked as it as well. If there is a parasite infection diagnosed, then we will use specific herbs for specific parasites. So we may use wormwood or garlic or Artemisia annua, black walnut. There is a pomegranate. There's a whole range of herbs depending on which parasite there is, and the herbs need to be tailored by a naturopath. I wouldn't go out and take them yourself, because it's a certain amount of meals and the prescription is quite defined. If it's a fungus, we would use herbs like golden seal podarco, horopito, to name a few, and they would be given for a certain amount of time along with a diet that starves out fungus, and along with correcting the microbiome. So just like you have healthy soil with good healthy bacteria and then your plants grow really strong, we want to have healthy flora and fauna in the gut, and then the parasites don't come in the first place. Also, if you've got really healthy hydrochloric acid in your stomach, that's one of your first lines of defences. So if somebody has a lettuce leaf with a parasite egg on it, and they chew that, and you've got good amounts of hydrochloric acid, that will kill it off in the stomach. If they don't, then it passes into the bowel and then can hatch into a parasite. So it's having all the defences in place. Also, the intestine is 70 to 80% of our immune system. So we want that to be really healthy so that the immune system also fights off things like fungus and bacteria and parasites. So it's all curable through lifestyle and through managing stress, through certain herbal medicine and certain nutrients, and guidance with lifestyle practices from somebody like myself. And if I think it's something more complicated, I'll refer to a doctor.
That's such good information, thank you. So do you have any extra tips for our viewers?
Yes. So if you're having something bitter or sour with most of your meals, you'll be helping to stimulate your good digestive juices, which is preventative for a start. Eat calmly, eat sitting down, avoid eating when you're stressed, because that can lead to more bloating and more irritable bowel. And it doesn't hurt to miss a meal or two if you're really stressed. Just wait till you're really calm. Obviously, if you're ongoingly not nourishing yourself, there's a problem. But a few hours or a few days is no problem. Having the spices which I have mentioned before, like fennel, ginger, cardamom, peppermint as digestive spices to strengthen the gut, really helps. And if you're going overseas to a foreign country where you may pick up a parasite, take a really good non-refrigerated probiotic with you and ask your naturopath what you can take with you to both prevent and treat parasites, so that you can sort of knock it on the head quicker. And then if you're living a a healthy, balanced lifestyle with good food, lots of rest, good fluid, healthy relationships, then your own system will be in balance to ward these things off. Sometimes it's when we get out of balance that we get more prone to things like irritable bowel.
That's such valuable information, Michèle. If you'd like to know more about Michèle Wolff and irritable bowel symptoms, please go to Michèle's webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we have another interesting guest with another interesting topic.
Stay tuned. After the break, journalist and meditation teacher Beatriz Goyoaga will be talking about the 4 sources of energy for health and well-being. Welcome back. Our third guest is journalist and meditation teacher Beatriz Goyoaga, and we will be talking about the 4 sources of energy to improve your health and well-being. Welcome, Beatriz. It's so great to have you back.
Thank you very much. I'm now very much part of the program.
So please tell me, what are the 4 sources of energy?
I tell you, I've lived sitting on that chair for a long time, interviewing presidents, getting up at 4 in the morning, covering countries in war, being in Afghanistan, stressful, and my energy level was so low, very low. And so, I just couldn't sleep well, and I demanded many things from people, and I was impatient, and I had all the side effects of stress. That first of all, even before meditation and before breath workshop, we have to look at the very simple 4 sources of energy which are given to us by the universe. First is a very common one, but we don't pay attention. Food. First is food. Second one is rest. Third one is breath. Many people, few people know about the amount of energy that we can get through breath. And the last and fourth, and not the least, the last but not the least, is a happy state of mind. When you're happy, your energy goes up. And within the last one, the happy state of mind, meditation comes in. Food, we think that we are the garbage collector. No, our body is a precious tool that has been given to us. We should not only respect our body, our needs, and feed the body properly, because we're feeding the body any garbage. Fresh food, many vegetables, many fruits. I mean, in Australia, you have everything, fruits and vegetables and freshly cooked food. That's the main thing. Look after your food. And then also look after your drink. 1 glass of wine, 2 fingers of wine, that's okay, it's good. So watch what you drink and drink a lot of water. The doctors are very happy with me because in the Art of Living, we teach people to drink between 3 and 4 liters of water every day. So important to drink. The body needs a lot of water and we don't drink enough water. The second one is rest. And resting is not sleeping. Resting, I mean, even if you just take 15 minutes in between work, take 15 minutes to do nothing. And nothing is nothing. People don't know anymore. They go to the beach, they take Netflix. They go jogging and they take the earphones. Resting, give the mind a break. In meditation, you also give the mind a break, but that comes last. Third one is breath. With the breath, you can control your mind, you can control your emotions. Every emotion that the mind produces has a different pattern of breath. When you're very stressed, how do you breathe? Like this. When you're very tired, zero energy. Something is contracting. When good news, you move, your energy expands. And when you are down, contraction. So this is just to tell you how important breath is for the control of emotions. Because fear is an emotion, anger is an emotion. You use your breath and you can increase your level of energy tremendously. And then the last source of energy is a happy state of mind. Can I ask you something? Who is responsible for your happiness? Me. But we are very keen in saying, my dog has to make me happy, my boyfriend, my husband, because of my children I'm not happy, because of the money I'm not happy. What? It is my responsibility to be happy no matter what. In this fourth source of energy, which is a happy state of mind, is meditation. If you're able to reach deep meditation, 20 minutes of deep meditation is the equivalent of 3 hours of good, deep sleep. So include your meditation in your happy state, because when you sleep well, oh, what a nice sleep I had. So if you look after these 4 sources of energy to begin with,
which source do you think is the most important? Which one would you say, if I said, okay, of the 4, I want to choose one for today to do, which one would you suggest?
One goes to the other. You cannot eat well and not sleep proper. Yeah, you have to respect the 6 to 8 hours that the body needs. Yeah, and the main one is meditation and the breath. The breath work every day. I brush my teeth, I wash my body, I sit and I brush my mind. I wash my mind. My energy level is high and I come out prepared. If somebody crosses my car with another vehicle, I don't shout, ah! I just go, my goodness, this guy must be so tired. And I'm more patient. So I would say all of them are very, very important. But if I had to choose, I would do nothing I'll do before I do my breath and meditation. I don't leave the house. If I have to fly, if I have to go to a funeral, if I have to visit my in-laws, I go first for my breath and meditation, and then my life is much, much better because my energy is high and I cannot change my surroundings. I can't change that, but I can change myself. I can be strong, cool, calm, and collected through breath and meditation. I am still the same housewife, the same journalist, the same athlete, but now I am a more tranquil and happier woman.
So what tips would you have for our viewers now? What should they do to work with their breath and meditation?
My first tip is do not postpone, procrastinate. Start today. Start looking at your diet today and do some exercise, do some yoga, do some running. Jogging is for free. You don't need to pay the gym. Do something with your body. And also start finding out the benefits of the breath. I climbed the Everest twice. Once from Tibet and one from the Nepali side. And my breath had to be very good, I tell you. It has to be very good. You need training. But you train yourself for your family, train yourself for your office, for your job, for the traffic, for the issues of everyday life. And I tell you, it is a before and after.
Wonderful. It's been such a pleasure to hear about this today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
If you would like to know more about the 4 sources of energy and Beatriz, you can visit her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. That's all we have time for today. Goodbye until next week.
If you'd like to know more about our show, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel.